everybody? Welcome back to another awesome episode of Rock Talk with the DocRocker. I'm Jeff Bonello, joined once again, like I am every time, with the DocRocker himself, Danton Arlotto.
Yo.
What are we talking about today? Who are we having the Zoomiverse? Let me know.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, let's have a nice big warm welcome to our special guest, a real close friend of mine. We go back to high school, if not even further. This is AJ Roslevich, and today we're going to be talking about something AJ has a lot of experience in, which involves kind of working the backstage stuff, working the lights, working sounds, doing all the stuff behind the scenes that we don't really, it's the stuff that we don't get to talk about all that much. We talk so much about the musicians on stage or and singers and dancers, but we don't get to we never really fully appreciate all the other people that make it possible, like all the people that really contribute to the amazing, and of course, given, our current state of affairs, we definitely, we're going to have a bittersweet conversation about this because we all are sorely missing what's going on with live performances right now. So this is going to be a little bit of reminiscence about that. So AJ is going to give us a little bit of that other side of things and tell us about his experience working with a lot of different artists. And then we can kind of, take it from there. So AJ, how would you like to start us off with this? Maybe, how about you introduce yourself a little bit?
All right. So I got my start doing backstage lighting kind of stuff back even before middle school. My music teacher asked me to do the CD player for a number during one of our Christmas programs. And then he asked me to do it again the next year and the next year and the next year. And then high school, I got involved with the drama club.
You were hooked from there, right?
Yeah. And I saw Trans-Siberian Orchestra in concert for the first time in 2001. And and I think that's what really sparked it for me. And I've just been in love with it ever since. And now I'm doing it professionally for a career.
Yeah,
and
I heard TSO kind of has an incredible kind of lighting, set of lighting and all the
they've gotten really big over the years. I've seen them perform live 13 times.
Oh wow, good for you, man.
In the past 20 years.
And I know they're one of your favorites of all time.
Yeah,
right?
And I would say they are my favorite band of all time.
Yeah, and so we're having you on the week before Christmas, when they're really in their heyday with all the stuff that they do.
Yeah. They've definitely done a lot of different things over the years, and they've really expanded and gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah, you saw TSO when they first started, when they first became TSO, and their show was a little bit smaller.
Right.
We could probably talk about the guys from TSO and the original TSO for a couple hours because I love Sabaton.
Right.
I love that band, man.
Yeah.
I like TSO a lot more than Danton does, but Sabotage, when I found out that's what they became, I was like, good for you guys, man. You deserve it because they were a struggling power metal band for many years before they, Paul O'Neill had this idea. Let's just play Christmas music.
Let's give it a shot of adrenaline that we've never heard before with Christmas music, and the rest is history.
Now, you worked on one of the shows. It says in your little bio that you wrote up for us. You've worked with them already?
Yeah. 2015. I got a call from IATSE, the Stagehands Union down in Hershey, looking for an extra set of hands. So I went down and I helped them load in at 6 a.m. that day. And then, so it was incredible unloading something like 20 something trucks in a few hours, getting everything set up and ready to go. Yeah. And then coming back at the end of the night after they had done 2 shows, pulling everything down, getting it back on the trucks. And arena shows like that are amazing for me. I live for that kind of stuff.
I was gonna say that's the grand culmination of all your experience coming together, especially doing it for one of your favorite artists.
That was an incredible experience.
Cool.
Getting to see how it all comes together. Yeah, and there was a point where there was a point where I actually got to stand on their stage. It was near the end of the load-in, setting up some of their lights on the deck, and that was a really cool experience.
I can't imagine how
And
you
I
must have
would
felt
absolutely
standing
love,
on that stage.
yeah, I would absolutely love to do that again.
Yeah. Well, hopefully in the future,
Yeah.
especially
Once,
once we enter the post-COVID world and
yeah,
we start getting back into the live scene of live concerts, and I'm sure they'll be doing more tours at that
yeah.
time.
They
And
they actually they actually have a live stream concert later tonight.
oh,
So
nice, very
so
cool.
I'm waiting for that. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
So
very cool.
let's go down the list of who you've worked
Sure.
with already. You got Styx, you got Toto, Kansas,
Yep.
Boyster Cult, Little River Band. My wife would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Hear about that.
Yeah.
She loves the Little River Band. Dean Simmons, Oak Ridge Boys, Johnny Math is very nice. The Glen Miller Orchestra, Cool and the Gang, Riverdance, Price is Right Live. This goes on and on. Paul McCartney. Ariana Grande, excellent. Price is Right Live too. Can't forget that. You've done the gamut.
I've done probably hundreds of shows over the years, and each one is unique. Like even the ones that come back every year, like Oak Ridge Boys, they come to my theater every year, and even though like they travel with a lighting director, but like I get to help them set up. I help their lighting director integrate with our lighting system, and it's just such a wonderful experience, and I look forward to it every time they come in.
So are you based, or before COVID I should say, were you based out of a certain theater?
Yes, I am the master electrician at American Music Theater in Lancaster.
Okay, so a normal day before COVID, in the before times, what would your normal day be like? Let's start there. What would a normal day for you be like?
Typically, our crew would come in the morning for one of these touring shows. We'd come in a little bit early, get the stage ready, setting up risers, making sure we have power run. We have our monitors set up and everything as best we can before they get there. And then typically what happens is the band will arrive, we'll load, get everything set up. If they have touring crews, we'll help their crews get everything set up and ready. And then, like I said, I'll use Oak Ridge Boys as an example because they're one of the ones that we get every year. Once all of their stuff is set in, we turn it over to their crew, and then pretty much I'm just there to troubleshoot if things come up, make sure everything goes smoothly, and then we do the show, and then after the show, we wait until the house clears, and then we take everything down, get it back on their trailer, and then they go, and we come back in the next morning and do it again with a different group.
Yeah, rinse repeat, right? For artist after artist. That's incredible. I can't imagine. It's even just looking at this laundry list of artists that you've had the pleasure of working with. That must be just such a cool aspect of it, is getting that kind of like a little bit of that firsthand experience with some of these really big bands, and having it be something different every time. Like it's one thing when you're like the performer. Let's say you're like in a band like Little River Band, for them it's kind of the same thing every day, right? The only thing that changes for them is the venue.
It's sort of, but even then, like that's one of the wonders of live entertainment. Even though they're doing the same show at every venue, they have a different crowd, they have a different physical building, a different crew. So
different place to go eat afterwards.
Even though they're doing the same show, right. Even though they're doing the same show at every stop, it's still different every time, and I love that about live entertainment, and that's one of the things why one of the reasons I still do it.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those grass is always greener kind of things where like, I can imagine it must be like a lot more fun in the backstage side of it, where you get to like work with different artists and have different music played. And then for those that do perform, it's a little bit of like, oh yeah, I like doing like the same material, but for different audiences and getting different feedback from different audiences. It's kind of it's a cool mixed bag for everybody, and it's nothing but positive stuff from what I've seen. You know, I mean, my performance career is by no means extensive. You know, a lot of like small local kind of stuff. I've never like really done any touring or anything like that per se. But, yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So
couldn't handle touring right now.
What's that?
Even last year, I'm too old to tour.
Yeah,
I do a couple out of state gigs once in a while, and that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. For me, I'm too committed
from home.
I'd rather do my lessons. I mean, I like to travel like once in a while to perform. Like, you know, back in the before time, you know, Jeff would bring me over to like play like the occasional wedding and stuff like that, and that's been kind of cool. Like, let's take a good like hour and a half drive and get like somewhere like totally new and perform, even if it's music I've played before. It's kind of cool going to a different place to do that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I like staying in my area and, you know, working with my kids, and kind of keeping to myself. As much as I love to play.
Let's talk about lighting and just the lighting in general really affects performances. I believe in, and how much people enjoy live music. Lighting is just as important as sound. I'm a firm believer at that, because you go see, for instance, on my level, you go see a bar band who has a couple LED cans set up, you know, in the back. And they're playing, you know, the same 50 songs that everyone else plays, fine. You go see a bar band who has a really awesome light show playing the same 50 songs, you're going to enjoy that a lot more.
It's going to be a lot more
memorable. Definitely.
Lighting is it's just as important.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I got into this business, was like, my first concert ever was Trans-Siberian Orchestra in 2001, and I often say like that's what got me involved in it, because I was just amazed by the level of their lighting show, even 20 years ago, compared to what I had seen before, and I just fell in love with it, and I thought to myself, you know, I want to give this feeling to somebody else someday. And so that's what did it for me, and that's what got me hooked.
Turnaround point for you. That's a really cool story.
Well, I mean, you started at the top. You know, you go see TSO, you know, and you're like, okay, this is amazing. You know, then you'll go see another band who, like I said, doesn't really have much to offer. So it's like, you know, if the only movies you know are like, you know, like the original Star Wars movies and The Godfather, and then you go see another movie 20 years later, you're like, this isn't as good.
So unless it's a real stand out, you know.
Yeah. You know, as far as like what they do now, like TSO is pop. They're like, you know, the biggest thing as far as lighting goes. I don't know another show that's as big light wise, really, or as impressive. Yeah. Like, where are we going from there?
Well, I think I've noticed TSO specifically over the years. They're more heavily integrating video now these days, and I've noticed over the past few years that the lighting itself is getting smaller, but the video screens are getting bigger. So now you can have like video content. You can have like a backdrop that changes for each song, and I've seen some video walls where they make it look like lighting. So video, I think, is getting to be a lot bigger in live performance now, and there's just so many things that you can do with video that maybe you can't necessarily do with lighting. It's a matter of how you use it and using it wisely, and I think TSO is one of the groups that absolutely does it well.
Well, the video walls, for instance, they're a lot cheaper now than they were, say, 10 years ago. So and they're a lot more they're thinner, just the way technology is working right now. Televisions are getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Like I remember big TVs because again, I'm old. So I remember, like
I remember big TVs too. You're not that much older than us.
Right. But like, you look at a TV now and it's like, thin, real thin.
Yeah.
Something like that was like $4,000 for a 32-inch, really, really thin TV, say 10 years ago or whatever. Now it's like $100. So it's like the price of that technology keeps on going down. So and you could build these huge LED video walls, so that's probably why more and more bands are using them because they
accessibility is probably definitely a thing.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of video walls, there's a theater down in Lancaster, Sight and Sound Theaters in Lancaster. I believe they currently have, I believe it's the largest flying video wall or something like that in the United States. It's I
in
think
Lancaster?
30 feet high by, it's I think it's 30 feet high and 113 feet wide.
Wow, that's bigger than my house.
And getting set for it.
I don't know why I found that so funny. I just did.
And I haven't seen it myself.
So now, by flying monitor, you mean like the whole thing can literally like move around the stadium, or?
Well, no. Well, I believe it just goes up and down.
Still, that's impressive.
But yes, they had to have a custom designed system installed for it because it's so heavy.
Oh man, I can't imagine how much something like that costs, or how many people need to operate it.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's crazy.
And have you ever gotten a chance to work with it, or no?
No. It's at a theater. It's at a different theater.
Oh, okay.
that I have.
I know you're mainly at American Musical Theater, but I wasn't sure if you like doing other like freelance stuff with other companies too, or if
I do when I have time. Usually my production schedule. I usually don't have a lot of free time because we have so many shows at our theater.
That's a good problem.
If I have what?
That's a good problem to have.
What was that?
Yeah,
definitely.
to be pretty committed.
Definitely. Like I remember when I was first out of college, before I got this job, I did a lot of freelance work, and there's just a lot of times I just wasn't getting as much work as I would have liked. But I'm really glad now that I have a steady gig, relatively speaking.
Yeah. Present time situation accepted, but
right.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm looking through your rundown here. 3D modeling. You're talking about the future stage lighting, and you included 3D modeling. You gotta explain that to me. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Here, but
video guy in me is interested.
Yeah. One of the things that's coming out, and it's been around for a while now, but the technology is really starting to pick up with it. A lot of times what bigger shows will do is they'll build a 3D model of their stage and their lighting setup, and they'll try to match it as close as they can. And before they even get to an actual light, before they get to wherever their rehearsal space is, they'll sit down with this 3D model, and they'll program as much as they can with it, like before they even see the actual space, so that when they get there, what they can do saves them a lot of time, because at that point they don't need physical equipment, they don't need all the power running all the time, so they can just go in, plug in their console, and there it is. There's the show, and then they only need to make some minor adjustments during the rehearsal phase.
Now you've worked with a lot of different artists. Okay, here's a question that just popped up in my head. I was thinking you work with a lot of different artists, and you're saying like, okay, this 3D modeling you could have everything plugged in, exactly how everything's gonna go. Now with TSO, everything is timed out and planned right down probably to the second. Am I right by saying that? They don't improvise.
Yeah, I've talked. I've done a lot of research on TSO just because they are one of my favorite groups, one of my biggest inspirations. Their lighting director actually runs everything by hand. And
that's cool. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So he's composing, like he's like the maestro, you know what I mean? He's directing.
Yeah,
he's I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. During the show, he's there. He's playing his lighting console like an instrument, just like the band.
Yeah, and he probably knows every beat, every beat right on it, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is really cool. Now, how many of these other bands that you mentioned, or how many of these bands that you worked with, are they down to like exactly what they want at what second, or do they improvise? Like, how much of this is all planned out? How much of it is just like we're just gonna run with it?
Some of the shows, I think from that list, probably some of the bigger shows like Paul McCartney or Ariana Grande, like the big arena shows, and like a lot of pop shows, like
well, she's gonna have to, because she's singing to tracks, so she's gonna have to have that all timed out.
And so they'll use a time code that synchronizes the audio, lighting, and video, and whatever else they're using. Like even some of the shows that use like automation, like moving stage pieces or whatever, like they'll have that all synchronized to time code, and that keeps everything in sync. Right. But a lot of the smaller shows, like Gene Simmons, I worked with him a few years ago. I was the lighting designer for that day, because he didn't travel with his own lighting guy, so I was the guy that day, and I know some of his songs from Kiss, but I don't remember off the top of my hand if he even did any Kiss songs.
Well, that must have been interesting.
Yeah, so I had to, like, I have my console set up so that I have some basic things that I use for every show, and then it's just a matter of mixing them together and making the show look good.
Yeah, sure.
So in a sense, you're just as much a performer as he is.
Exactly.
Yeah, thinking of the lighting director for TSO, kind of like how Jeff said, like playing it like an instrument and like it's really cool to see how that like comes together from the other side. That's really
that's surprising, because I would think TSO, but I understand why the guy would want to do it, because he has total control.
Right.
He doesn't want to. It's okay. I'm going to let the computer do it. I can understand why, but that's pretty impressive. Well, that's very impressive. Not pretty impressive. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your the tech writers. There's a couple interesting things here that you have listed as far as tech writers, and I know about the brown M&Ms, and I know why that's in there. We talked about this on one of our earlier podcasts, but okay, let's go with the tech writers. What do you see in a normal tech writer?
Well, most tech writers, they'll start off with like a summary of the schedule for the day, like what time they need the crew there, what time the band is going to show up for sound check, like even down to what time the show starts, what time the show ends, if there's an intermission, so all that kind of stuff. They'll list like how many people they need on the crew, like do they need a lighting guy, do they have a lighting guy, do they need follow spot operators, do they need someone on stage for the show, do they need a monitor technician? So they'll list all those kinds of things. They'll often list if they need power tie-ins, like if they travel with a lighting package, how much power they need for that. If they travel with video, audio, how many people they need to help set it up. And then most tech writers will also include hospitality arrangements that they need. Like if the band needs a hotel room for the day or for the overnight, catering, like if they need breakfast, lunch, dinner, just lunch and dinner, just dinner, foods, like even menu suggestions, so they don't have the same food at every location, at every stop.
Hey man, I understand that. I mean, if you're gonna go do 300 dates a year,
exactly.
You don't want to, a tuna fish sandwich every. We don't want to eat tuna fish never, but you don't want to eat the same thing every day.
Right. So all that, and then like you said about the no brown M&Ms. And that's actually, it sounds silly.
What is that?
That's actually some people use that as more of a safeguard, like to make sure that the people at the venue are actually reading the paperwork. So if they
usually throw something weird in there to make sure that you're reading it all the way through.
Right.
We talked about that when Eddie Van Halen passed away, because Van Halen was very famous with putting stuff like that, especially the M&M thing, into the rider, just to make sure everyone's paying attention. It wasn't because they were assholes. Maybe they were, but it wasn't because of that. It was, hey, you got to do your job,
Right,
and it also, really, there may be someone in the band that has a food allergy. You never know. Right?
Exactly. So, and that way, if they see that, if they say something like, no brown M&Ms, and then they find a bowl of M&Ms and and nobody took all the brown ones out, well, what else did they miss then? Like, is the stage now the wrong size? Was the stage built incorrectly? Is there food that's maybe contains allergens for some of the performers? And it gets into some pretty serious safety concerns at that point.
Sure, yeah. I've been to a concert already where the band canceled because the stage actually was too small. It wasn't to the specs that they wanted it. And it was Godsmack. And people were pissed off because Godsmack canceled that day. It was up at the Mount Airy Casino. They were hosting the Uproar Festival. And
oh, wow.
Sorry to say, Mount Airy, it pretty much, it failed pretty badly. Godsmack left, but we got to see Buck Cherry do like almost an extra set of covers, which was really cool. Because Buck Cherry's like, do it, we'll play on this. But the bottom line with that is, like, it wasn't to the specs that they wanted or needed for the stage show. That's mainly what it was. And so they're like, we can't play. I talked to a stagehand. He actually plays in a band called Unita. They're a stoner rock band. And when I recognized him, he was like, how did you recognize me? I'm like, well, I'm a big stoner rock fan. So I was talking to the stagehand, and he told me, like, it's not that he didn't want to play. They couldn't play,
Right.
Their stage show wouldn't fit. So, that's firsthand, a firsthand experience on a band or a place that probably didn't read through everything that the band needed. And, kind of sucked.
That's scary to think about, because not to mention safety concerns too.
Exactly.
Like, what if there's something that can go wrong, where you blow a fuse or start a fire, or it's a real serious job.
Or if they're like, for example, if there's not enough power for the lighting rig, then how are they going to do the show after dark? Or like I said, like with food allergies.
Even at my level, which is pretty much private events and weddings and stuff like that, small things like that. There's still always power concerns if you have to play in a real shady bar. There's been some power concerns before, and or outside with a generator. I mean, especially with a generator, man. If you're gonna get a generator that's a little shady, that could destroy all your equipment. So
exactly.
Even at the lower end here, where I sit.
I mean, and I've been in that situation too. Like I've even working on smaller events. I used to work at a wedding rental company, and one of the things that we'd run into every so often is we wouldn't have enough power to plug in all the lights that they wanted. Yeah, and like
I always put in the rider. I always put it in the contract for who was ever hiring us, and to discuss it with the actual venue. Like this is what we need minimum. And that's always a little bit higher than what we actually would be minimum, because you don't want the minimum.
Exactly. And I ran into an even bigger example of that last January. I was helping set up for a convention in Harrisburg, and the person who took care of advancing everything didn't do a good job of it. And
you're being nice.
Yes, I'm being very nice in this instance. The room that we were supposed to set everything up in, we had been told we'd have the power connections that we needed, and the room did not have the power connections that we needed. So we ended up having to cut some of our equipment, and we ended up making it work, but it was sketchy as hell, and it was.
You'd rather not work that way. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You make it work, but
yeah, we made it work, but we weren't happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk what you're doing now. Let's talk about the now. You know, we talked about, you know, the fun that you had with this job, and hey, come when everything shut down mid-March. I mean, I played my last gig, I think 2 days before shutdown. That last weekend, I played 2 gigs back to back, and we were hearing these to talk about this crazy virus, and we were all thinking, well, that ain't gonna happen here. You know, that's not gonna happen here. You know, Italy shut down and whatever. That can't happen. And next thing you know, man, they said, hey, stay home for 2 weeks, and that was 10 months ago.
Yeah, I was.
Here we are.
I was at work setting up for Martina McBride on March 12th. And we had gotten there early in the morning because she had a lot of stuff that we needed to set up. I think we'd been there at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. or something like that. And as far as we knew, everything was going as planned. We got all of her stuff in. Everything was set up. Their band came in, did their sound check. She came in, and then had, I guess it was her and her producers or something came in, and they had a meeting with her band and her crew on stage at 4:00 in the afternoon, 3 hours before showtime, and they canceled it that day because of the virus. And so at that point, we're like, you know what?
All that work, man.
After all that work, we had to take it down and put it back in the trucks.
I'd be livid. I'd be so mad.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, that was supposed to be the first of, I think, 3 shows that weekend. I think we were supposed to have Stomp the next day, and that got canceled.
Oh man!
And whatever the third show was got canceled. Like that night, everything got canceled.
And that was the last day you worked, right?
Almost, because the concerts were canceled. They gave us the weekend off. But then they had us come back in on Monday because we were getting ready for an in-house show that was supposed to open in May. And Monday morning we came in. We were start working on things for that. We had set pieces to build and that kind of stuff. And then we came back from our lunch break Monday afternoon, and they told us that they were pushing off the show. They were canceling the show for the summer. So
they already knew that far in advance that they would not be doing the summer. Wow.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Well, I think originally the plan was cancel it for this year to fit some of the concerts, the guest concerts that had canceled. But then everything got canceled for the summer, and then and then it just spiraled out of control from there. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say that was probably the end of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, when they first let us go, it was March 18th was our was the day that we were officially furloughed. Originally they were saying the middle of May they'd have us come back. Well, then that got pushed off, and I think then they were saying June we'd come back, and then it was July, and then it was September.
You're probably still hearing the same story now. Like, January, yeah, we'll be back.
And it got to a point in, I think, August, where I was thinking to myself, you know, if we don't go back now, we're not going to be able to do our Christmas show for November and December. Lo and behold, that got canceled. And and it's just, I want to say there's no end in sight, but at this point, I think there is now with the vaccine coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, once that's more widely distributed, I think things will start picking up again.
Yeah, it's only a matter.
It really has to. It really has to be, and if it doesn't, there's going to be no live music to go back to, especially the smaller, and these smaller theaters and venues. They've almost passed the point of no return, and there's been no help. Am I right? There's been no real help from the government or anybody for this.
No.
And sometimes, like, you guys are forgotten about, like, okay, they know who the band is, okay, but everyone underneath that band, they're not working.
Right.
Oh, like, Metallica's okay. Like, I always have to use the example. Metallica's okay. They're probably taking care of their crew. But what about these smaller bands? What about, like, on your list, what about Blue Oyster Cult? You think those guys can float everyone? They can't. They probably can't. They probably don't have any money. They're not a huge band right now. I'm sure they're okay, but they're not Metallica. They're not Paul McCartney. And the smaller venues, the independent venues, they're dying or they're dead.
Exactly.
And it's sad. Like, you have some good points here on your rundown. Venues are forecasted to lose up to $8.9 billion of revenue. Arts and culture contributed $877.8 billion, or 4.5% of the national gross domestic product. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
and a lot of people don't understand. Like, they take it for granted. Like, we love entertainment as Americans. We love entertainment. We love this stuff.
And I think there's a lot more to live entertainment than a lot of people realize, because not only do you have your band on stage, you have their crew behind them, you have their truck drivers for these bigger shows, you have the theater's staff, ushers, concessions, management, box office. You have countless numbers of independent contractors who are, like, with the stagehands unions that are out of work now, and it baffles. It's mind-boggling how many people are involved in a live show.
Yeah. And also, you have to consider, like you have written down here, a Chicago study estimated that $1 spent at a small venue resulted in $12 of economic activity for neighboring restaurants, hotels, retail shops. You get a good show coming into town, everyone is gonna be affected by that show being canceled, including the restaurants around the theaters and stuff like that. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I know my theater, we get a lot of bus groups that come in for our shows, and I think that was one of the biggest influences about why we canceled our summer show this year, was because the bus groups started canceling, and we lost our audience at that point. So so we couldn't do the show to an empty house.
So what is going on right now? Like, what is happening right now to help out the independent theaters and people like you? What's happening right now? Is there anything happening?
Not a whole lot right now. I mean, we're trying to push Congress to pass legislation that's specific to our industry, but it's, as far as I know, it hasn't really gone anywhere.
I know someone spoke on Tuesday to Congress. I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of details about that, but I know somebody representing the organizations involved spoke to Congress on Tuesday. I don't know if he was from SaveOurStages.com or another organization, but I know that happened on Tuesday. I don't know what happened with it. I wasn't able to really read up on, because there's not really a lot of media coverage of this.
Exactly.
Either.
Right. And honestly, I haven't heard myself. So I can't say exactly what's going on at this exact moment.
Yeah.
But I think there's not enough attention to it, and that's one of the reasons that nothing's gotten done.
Well, I'll give out a couple websites if anyone that's watching this wants to know more about this or any way they could help out. The National Independent Venue Association is nivassoc.org, and saveourstages.com are two of them that you have listed. I've heard saveourstages.com being mentioned and being tossed around a lot lately. So, check that one out. Check them both out, actually. And any help, you can, anyone can help, please. I mean, really, because there's no help coming for any of these. And this even, again, will go down more to the corner bar level too. I know bar owners who are saying, especially now in Pennsylvania, we're shut down again, no indoor dining, and it's pretty damn cold out right now. How can you eat outside? So bar owners I know are saying, like, what the hell are we going to do?
Right.
Barely survived the first shutdown. And when it does come back around, I don't play many bar gigs anymore with my band, but when I do, is the money even going to be there?
Right.
Be able to pay?
Really good question.
That's, who knows, WeMakeEvents.org. Now, this website that you have listed here, you also have some stats. 95% of live events have been canceled due to COVID-19. 96% of companies have cut staff and or wages. 77% of people in the live events industry have lost 100% of their income, including 97% of 1099 workers. And I'm included in that. I didn't lose I didn't lose all my income because I do have another job. I work in television. Thank God, fingers crossed, and I can keep on doing that. That saved me, but we lost a lot of our income. Our schedule for 2020 with my band was filled in March. It was almost completely filled. And then one by one,
they all started dropping like flies.
Dropping.
And I mean, and that's what happened to me too. Like my theater hosts probably 200, 250 events every year. And since March, everything is gone.
For this whole year, a theater that has planned to do 250 shows has now done probably 60 or less for the entire year.
That sounds about right.
If you do the math.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I just look at the way I did it. We did 10 gigs and then we were shut down. And we had to cancel or reschedule 30 some of them. And the ones that were rescheduled to 2021, they're getting canceled now too, the early ones. Like some of these people canceled their wedding twice. They rescheduled their wedding twice. I have one booked in 2022 now. So let me ask you this: what do you expect? What do you expect live music and to look like after this is over?
I think it's going to come back slowly, slower than we'd like it to, just because I think part of it's going to be insurance carriers aren't going to want to issue policies for saying, oh, one of your audience members got COVID and now you have to pay their medical bills for that. Like, so that I don't think that's not going to happen. I think most people will still be cautious about going to events that revolve around large gatherings like that. And I think it's going to take longer than we would like for someone to say, hey, I'm okay with doing this now. Because it's going to take a while for someone to be the first to do it. But I think eventually it will come back someday, eventually. Like we were talking earlier about now that the vaccine is starting to go out, I think that's going to help a lot.
The day will definitely come where we're back to where we were before COVID, but it's absolutely not going to be so much as like, the vaccine comes out, we flip a light switch and all of a sudden
Exactly.
concerts are back on and everything's back to the way it was. It's not going to be
Exactly.
an instant change like it was an instant change off, you know,
Right.
like we went from like concert, nothing.
Right.
You know, and now we're sitting here in the nothing chapter, and we're not going to just be
Right.
able to flip right back on and go back to concert. It's going to be like
Right.
a couple really big places might do limited seating, maybe. And then some of those concerts are going to happen. And even then, they're not going to have anywhere near the turnout that they normally have come to expect.
Right.
It's probably going to take a couple of years to gradually build back to this point where now we're
totally normal again.
People.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
now I have some pulled up here from the president of Live Nation. Yeah. We'll talk about him real quickly. He says, this is something from Spin Magazine last week. He says, we feel real good right now about large-scale shows coming back in the summer of 2021. He's being really optimistic about that, I think. I don't see it. I really don't. I thought about that in the summer. I'm thinking, by next year, we'll be fine. But right now, going into the end of 2020 into 2021,
lockdown. Yeah, things
are. The way I'm looking at it, man. I mean, there may be some things going on, but I can't see like these crazy concerts I used to go to coming back summer, really. At least around here. I know some places out west are they didn't really lock down as hard as we did.
Right.
Midwest, and they had concerts. There are some shows going on, and they have been going on, but they're few and far between.
Right.
Especially here on the East Coast.
Right. And I know like overseas, where the pandemic was handled more efficiently, I want to say like New Zealand, Australia, even parts of Europe. even parts of Europe that handled it well, and their numbers are low enough now that they are starting to have events again. I heard recently, I think it was Germany or Norway or somewhere in there, they held a large scale concert just to see what the effect of the spread of COVID would do. And I'm sure that like the data helps with getting things back to where they had been before everything shut down. And I think research like that is necessary for this business, like just because it'll help us get the numbers in and see exactly what we can do to get it going again.
I did speak to a few people through Facebook that are musicians in Australia, and depending on where you live in Australia, they're pretty much saying like it's almost back to normal as far as like smaller gigs, like bar gigs and stuff. They're guys playing back in bars, and
they're a lot further along than we are.
Yeah, New Zealand, as far as I know, eradicated COVID.
Yeah.
Don't have
a couple months ago, actually. They were like one of the first areas to like, all right,
They're also saying don't come in. You're not allowed in.
Yeah. Stay the hell away from us.
Especially you Americans.
Especially the Americans. Yeah. We are definitely batting zero with this whole thing, man. I have never been more ashamed in my life to be an American than I am now. It's been an absolutely awful experience with all of this going on. And
well, especially because we're in the business of playing music and entertaining people. And you know, we have our jobs, like we're around people.
In-person connection, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're a teacher, even with television, you know, there's so many things like we have to avoid. It's really hard. You know, I don't work in the news department of the TV station, but I always tell them when they're going out, I'm like, guys, be careful, man, please. You know, luckily, you know, I'm kind of by myself most of the day. I'm a video editor and a director, so I don't really see a lot of people. But on the weekends, I would go out and play music, you know, and I would be in a crowded bar, or I'd be at a wedding with 200 people, or I'd be at a corporate party or a casino. Now that's gone. So, and that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, because we had nothing to do on Friday night.
Yep.
The only good thing that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is honestly just one of our ways of, kind of fighting this and trying to still
Yeah.
build a sense of community and bring people together, even if we have to do it online. So be it. It's better
Right.
than nothing. But the same can't be said for having a team of 150 plus light sound engineers,
Exactly.
instrument techs, all of those people that don't even have this outlet right now.
Right.
So, I mean, if nothing else, I'm happy that we're able to bring you on for this to,
Yeah.
shed some light and, help people understand. So not to be so much of a Debbie Downer, but so much like really honestly to understand the severity of like how
Right.
bad our situation really is
Right.
for musicians and for artists. But if nothing else, we can kind of blend this over to the teacher talk side of things,
Yeah.
where like it's a little bit kind of educational. Of here's that other
Yeah.
side. Here's that thing that's not so glamorous, and
Right.
that's on TV as much, or like romanticized in film. Like you don't like how many movies are there about a famous singer songwriter band artist? How many movies are about the guy who does the lights? I can't
Right.
think of one. And I mean,
There
I'm
are
not a movie buff by any means, but I mean,
there actually are a couple. They're not very well known, but there are a couple. There was actually a TV show, I believe it was either on Stars or Showtime. It ran for one season. It was about the stagehand of this big production. God, I can't remember the name of it.
Case in point, I can't remember the name. It's not that big of a thing. It had one season. That's the best that AJ's crowd gets.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said earlier, like I said
here it is.
earlier.
Okay, yeah, I got it. It was called Roadies. 2016. It was actually created by Cameron Crowe, who did the movie Almost Famous and a bunch of other things. Yeah, Roadies TV show. It was on Showtime. Yeah, it was on Showtime for one season. It was pretty good though. You should check it out. I liked it. It was cool. It was like a dramedy. It was like kind of comedy, kind of not. But it was kind of cool. So that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. There was a movie made in the 70s. I want to say Meatloaf was in it actually. But okay, that's much I got for you.
I mean, and like I said earlier, there are so many people involved with live productions that don't get the recognition that they deserve. I mean, of course you have your band and your performers, but you have your crew, you have your truck drivers, bus drivers, catering crew, your costume department,
ushers, showing crowds,
ushers, office staff. Like even the shop crews that prep all the gear,
the custodians that sweep all the beer off the floor after a show's over, and
exactly
all the really unglorified work.
Exactly, there's just so many people involved and now all of us are out of work because there's no shows.
Yeah, and even during the good times before COVID, all these hundreds of thousands of people were going without getting any recognition.
Exactly.
And hopefully this episode of Rock Talk can kind of shed some light on that, and like I said, kind of enlighten people to really the big picture of all of that. So it's all part of our mission of bringing people together and just trying to make the best of a bad situation here.
Right.
So AJ, to wrap everything up, anybody that's watching or is going to watch this, like, what would you tell them about what you do and what you do now, and how you can make a difference as far as helping out, maybe, or at least, at the very, very least, when things go back to normal, go see a live show.
Right. I would say, live entertainment is probably one of the oldest professions in civilization anywhere. I mean, even going so as far back as ancient Greece with the early days of theater.
Yeah.
It's live entertainment has survived for the entirety of civilization. It's not the end. Like, even if things are bad now, it will get better. We'll come back. And we'll get back to work, and we'll be making people happy again. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and this time it is not an oncoming train.
Thank God for that. It's just that it keeps getting further and further away, and as soon as we get close to it, it's like, nope, psych, you have 50 more miles. And then you get close, nope, another 50.
Yeah, we'll get there one of these days.
Yeah. Well, AJ, dude, it has been not only it's been such a pleasure having you on the show and sharing all of your experiences and insights, but it's been good to see you again, man.
You too.
Yeah. Like I said in the beginning, AJ and I go back to high school. You know, we were in marching band together, and you know, and it was cool because we used to work for a local theater company in which AJ would do all the lights and things, and while not being like a guy on stage performing, I was also kind of like in the backstage performing with the pit, you know, like piano and being with the bands and stuff like that. So we kind of have a little bit of that, like we're like the unsung heroes thing in common. But I definitely don't have any of that experience on like the tech side. You know, for me, it's always been just playing piano. That's the only thing I know how to do, really. So so it's been good to see you, man, and you know,
you too.
we'll have to get you back on here for maybe another talk like this, or maybe we can, you know, do like another thing we can kind of like geek out about TSO together, and we could share some feelings about
you're gonna geek out about TSO? How is that possible?
well that could be kind of the fun bit of like, I can kind of talk about, you know, like, since they're not my favorite artist, and that could be kind of where we can kind of share those different opinions. That could be kind of fun.
Did you know that, AJ? Did you know that? Did you know he's not too?
I've kept that a secret from AJ for this whole time because I know he loves him. So I try to avoid talking smack when AJ's around, because I know it's like his favorite thing. You know, I don't want to be that guy that, like, you know, your favorite band sucks. You know,
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Is TSO? We could spend hours on that because, like I said, I love talking about that band, and I love talking about their early pre-TSO days, because, man, if you like TSO, you gotta give it up for Sabotage, man. That stuff is awesome.
And I've been getting into Sabotage a little bit more now too, because of TSO. Like looking back into like where they came from, and their music from back then.
The origin story.
The last couple of I'll just say this before we get too deep into Sabotage. The last couple albums they did while they were starting TSO sound like TSO. You know, they sound real similar. You know, they made a nice transition from what they were originally to that TSO type sound that they have.
And I've noticed a lot of some of the music that TSO is releasing lately is Sabotage music.
Yeah, it's some Sabotage stuff.
And I went back and looked into Sabotage because of that.
It's really cool.
It's cool how it all comes.
Thanks a lot, man, for talking
anytime.
With us, buddy. Thank you very much. Now, it's the time of the show where we do our homework for the week. Now, every week I give Danton an album that he hasn't heard, and every week he gives me an album that I haven't heard. So, Danton, this week, what was your homework assignment?
So I had another power metal assignment. I got the band Gamma Ray, the album Land of the Free.
And I got Steve Vai, Modern Primitive.
Oh boy, that's right. I was honestly sitting here thinking, shoot, I forget what I gave him. What did I get him to listen to?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, how do we want to start this?
You could go ahead. Go first. I like when you go.
Well, you know, especially like last week, you know, the week before last, we did our power metal episode, and that got me going down that whole rabbit hole of like, here's this awesome genre that I know a little bit about, but let me go like really explore that, you know. So I checked out some more stuff by my favorite band of the genre, Rhapsody of Fire, and then I got Karma by Camelot as my assignment last week, and I absolutely loved it. And so I've been like, oh yeah, this power metal stuff is awesome. Keep it coming. And I will say the same thing this week too. If you have another power metal assignment in mind, Jeff, I'll take it. But truth be told, for Land of the Free, I wasn't terribly impressed. I was kind of going in expecting more of like the real, like super fantastic Camelot kind of stuff, Rhapsody kind of stuff, especially with some of these titles. Looking at the list, you know, things like The Savior and Fairy Tale, the opening track, Rebellion in Dreamland. But stylistically, stylistically, it didn't deliver quite what I was expecting, which I think is a big part of why I was disappointed by it, because I was kind of expecting more of the whole like kind of super speedy Knights and Dragons kind of stuff. But it had a lot more thrashy vibes, which I could see why Gamma Ray is probably as popular as they are. You know, I'm sure like a lot of your like Metallica heads, they gave me a lot of Metallica vibes. A lot of times, like I'm listening to some of the songs on this album thinking, yeah, these guys kind of sound like Metallica. I mean, I'm not going to say the singer was bad, but I wasn't crazy for his voice compared to like a lot more of the more operatic stuff I heard and the other artists I've been checking out. This guy didn't quite deliver on that front. I mean, like I said, good singer, you know, really fits the sound that they're going for, but it's just not my thing. I'm not really much of a thrash guy, you know. Those of you that have been following the show, you know, you might have noticed on the thrash episode we did, you know, a big reason we brought a guest on for that is because, like, I really don't have much to say about thrash. It's not like I don't really know much about the genre, not really big on it musically. It doesn't really resonate with me in a lot of ways. So for me, it's a little dry, a little boring. You know, I like the goofier, crazier stuff. Like if it's not super colorful and cartoony and just like ADD out the wazoo, that's why I like prog so much. Cause it's just, and there were a lot of moments in this where like you have a lot of those moments, like for like the moment to moment listening experience in some of these songs does change a lot. But I feel like the grand whole of all of it was not greater than the sum of its parts. So I probably won't revisit it. I'm definitely open to checking out more of these guys' stuff to see maybe, you know, maybe, Jeff, you could maybe tell me like if they kind of vary a little bit, or if all their stuff is kind of thrashy like this, maybe it's just a band that's not for me. But I'm glad I listened to it. I probably won't revisit it anytime soon.
So what do you rank it out of like 10?
Oh, out of 10, well, that's the problem. Personally, I'd say like a 6 out of 10. Like it's good, but it's just not for me. Now, objectively speaking, musically speaking, I'd probably lean more to like 7.5 or 8 because it's solid. It's a solid album. It's really good. It has a lot of variety, a lot of great content, really cool, catchy titles, and great lyrics, and it's great in a lot of ways. So it's better than I'm giving it credit. So don't take my personal review as like, Danton said he didn't like it. It probably sucks. It's not true at all. Don't take my personal opinion for anything really, other than my personal opinion. So
I gave that to you because it's an album that is varied. The songs vary in sound and structure and tempo, and that's to me that is their best album because of that. And they're a lot thrashier than Camelot and Rhapsody. That is the singer / guitar player. That's Kai Hansen. That's the guy who did Keeper of the Seven Keys, Halloween. He was one of the songwriters. Left Halloween after the Keepers albums, and he started Gamma Ray. That's why you probably hear a little bit of Halloween in that too. And of course, Michael Kiske from Halloween sings on one of the songs. Probably the weakest song on the album, but he sings on it. It's Time to Break Free, it's called. It's kind of like a sore thumb on that album. Doesn't fit with the rest of it.
Yeah, I kind of like the chorus of that one. It was catchy, but yeah.
I think it's a great song. It just doesn't fit with the rest of the album. But you're right. They're more of a thrashy power metal band than like a symphonic power metal band.
Yeah, so if you're into thrash, highly recommend check them out. If you like Metallica, if you like Slayer, if you like Anthrax, go check these guys out. If you're into the more symphonic stuff, I would stay clear. Stick with.
Yeah, so I think anymore, if I need to suggest an album for you, I got to make sure it checks that symphonic box off.
Yeah, I love the symphonic stuff. Give me that.
Right.
You know.
Right, because that's what Camelot is. That's what Rhapsody is. You know.
Yeah.
Now, Blind Guardian kind of does a little bit of both. They do a lot of symphonic stuff and a lot of thrash stuff. So they may be best of both worlds for you. So, but who knows? Maybe that'll be next. I have to decide on that one.
Yeah, take your time.
I like that Gamma Ray album. That came out a while ago. That's a pretty old album. And I loved it.
I listened to was a 2017, but it was like a remaster. It was like an anniversary.
You know what? I should have told you because I wanted to tell you this. The album proper ends with Afterlife. The song Afterlife is the end of the album. The rest of that stuff is all remastered stuff, old B-sides, and because there's like 22 tracks on one of the versions, we'll say. I hope you didn't listen to all 22.
No, I didn't. I actually stopped at Afterlife. I didn't, because I
Okay.
saw the rest of them, like, oh, here's like a pre-production version of this, and here's like a live thing, here's instrumental. So I skipped all that stuff. I got to Afterlife, and then I stopped. So I didn't listen to the whole thing. But one thing I will say, I really, really like the remaster from a sound designer perspective. It was really, really well mixed. The remastered is, I mean, aside from all the BS tracks, it's definitely the definitive way to listen to it, if you ask me.
I agree.
Quality. Awesome.
And I just and because of our power metal talk that we had a couple weeks ago, I've been revisiting all these ones, and that's why I haven't listened to that album in years. I dug it up. I'm like, maybe Dan would like this because it's so varied, kind of like Karma was. Like with Camelot Karma, every song is different on that. You don't get that
Karma
power
really
metal burnout. Yeah, it's not generic at all. So we will steer away from the thrash, unless of course it's Rust in Peace by Megadeth, because I know you like that.
Yeah, I definitely want to get more into Megadeth. Not even just
that's just on a level it's all its own though. Like Rust in Peace is like that's the cream of the crop as far as like thrash albums go. Okay, well let's move on to my homework. Steve Vai, Modern Primitive. What I found out about this album is it's based on song sketches and works in progress that Steve Vai had. Who, if you're listening to this podcast, you must know who Steve Vai is. He is probably one of the best guitar players alive today. He's fantastic. He's an all-around great musician. So this album is stuff that like he wrote back when he was starting his solo career back in like 84, I think, but he didn't like kind of finish these songs until 2016, we'll say, when the album came out. That's the history behind this. I like to read about what I'm getting into before I actually listen to the album. So I wanted to make sure, I get why the album is like it is. Well, it's Steve Vai, so there's going to be shredding. There's non-traditional song structures all over the place, and it's effing awesome. It's Steve Vai. How can it not be awesome? I mean, I love everything I heard from him ever. There's never been a even the stuff he did with Whitesnake I like because it's Steve Vai.
Great player.
Now the opener, Bop, is I love how Frank Zappa it is. It's very it's very Frank, but then again, Steve Vai played with Frank Zappa, so and you can hear that Zappa-esque stuff throughout this whole album, and everything I've listened to, I get that feeling sometimes, but not all the time. But with this album, I get it a lot. It's a lot of weirdness, good weirdness, The Lost Chord, that song features Devin Townsend on lead vocals, and I love some heavy Devi, but he's not heavy on this one, man. He sings, man, and it's really lyrical. Super cool, slow, groovy song, man. It's such a great song. Dark Matter and Lights Are On are great tracks. The Mighty Message. See, okay, I have to mention this. This album is kind of like two different things at once. Sometimes there's awesome instrumentals, and sometimes they're just like regular prog rock songs with vocals, and there's some guest lead vocalists throughout this album. Mighty Messengers, which is like a very straightforward, awesome, fast, a little thrashy almost, like rock song. That's a great song, man. That was probably my favorite track, is that one. I liked, like I said, I liked the one with Devin on it, but that was kind of slow. You gotta probably be in the mood for that, man. Just kind of, it's a cool, slow, groovy song, but Mighty Messengers, that's a great song, man. I listened to that over and over again, and that was really cool. Pink and Blows Over, 3-part song to end the album, is weird, man. It's like someone reminded me of like Christmas music. Like I don't know, just because they're so outside.
Oh yeah, because of like the little glockenspiel.
Yeah. And then
tiny thing.
I think the second part, I think it's the second part that starts off like
the second part where it really goes off the rails.
I think it starts off with like the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies or something, or some kind of
a little bit of
some kind of classic piece there. overall, I mean, it's cool. It ranges from jazz to rock music, and it totally very Zappa-esque. So if you like Frank, you're gonna like this. I can't see anyone not liking this that likes any kind of like even mildly progressive music. You know, if you like guitars and you like prog rock, it's Steve Vai, man. It's great. It's great.
I would give it. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I really did. I didn't know what to expect as far as how you'd take it because it's really weird. I wasn't sure how into that kind of stuff you were, so I figured let's just give something really kooky.
The song about the pockets, about having no pockets or something. Oh my god, that's so weird. The groove to it is so interesting. Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. I will definitely.
I'm glad you liked it.
It's on the list. That's another one, like last week's. The Soften the Glare. It's another one you can put on while you're doing other things. Just to kind of, but it's also this one is also the one you throw the headphones on, do a deep listen because there's a lot of cool stuff going on with this. So again, it's Steve Vai. I mean,
yeah, you can't really go wrong.
My review could have just been it's Steve Vai. That's it.
Yeah, that's all you need to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's essentially the bridge between Flexible, which was like his first debut album as a solo artist.
Yeah.
Which I want to say was as early as like 83, 84.
Yeah, 84 was released. Yeah. Flexible.
And then the next thing he did was Passion and Warfare in 91. So basically Modern Primitive is like the bridge over like that 6-7 year period. So like there's a little bit of elements of Flexible in it, which is a lot of like the real Frank Zappa-ish stuff.
Yeah, I'm hearing more of that.
Yeah, it leans more in that direction, but so some of the more straightforward stuff kind of makes me, it's a little reminiscent of Passion of Warfare. And the cool thing about it is he actually released it as like a dual thing with the 25th anniversary of Passion and Warfare. That was like what Modern Primitive was. It was like, oh, to celebrate the anniversary, let's revisit and do this other album, which kind of, here's all the stuff that led up to Passion and Warfare, and we'll do a anniversary release of Passion and Warfare. And I got to see him perform that live when he toured in like 2016, 2017, whatever year it was. And he actually played all of Passion of Warfare cover to cover and opened up with a bunch of other, I think he did 1 or 2 tunes off of Modern Primitive, and then he played some stuff off of he's got this Real Illusions thing going on over the last several years he's been working on. So he played a bunch of stuff from the newest bit of that, which was really cool. Anyway.
Is this the latest one he has out? This is the latest album?
Modern Primitive, I'm pretty sure is the latest thing he's got out. Yeah. I'd have to check that. I could be wrong, but yeah, it came out in 2016, and it's his most recent thing that he released.
It's really good.
I'm glad you like it.
I'm gonna say 8.5. I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. As far as that type of like guitar virtuoso prog rock stuff, it's one of the best I've heard. But again, that's how I rank most of his stuff because he's one of the best.
He's really the best. He's my favorite musician of all time, and that's no secret to anybody. He's my hero. I love that man. I want to be Steve Vai when I grow up.
It's fantastic, and he's one of the only guys, because there's a lot of guitar shredders. He's one of the only ones that I could really sit down and listen to and not really get bored from. Because he doesn't just shred; he's melodic. What is playing? He's the pinnacle. He really is. I mean, there's only a few I can name because I do like guitar players. I do like listening, but sometimes if it's instrumental, sometimes it just I get bored. This stuff didn't bore me. It was really good, really good.
Cool. I'm glad you liked it. That's really great.
So wrap up our talk.
So, yeah, I mean, everything we've talked about today is just really hitting home, at least for me, because I'm not alone in saying that we're all feeling the blow of being stuck at home with nothing to do and, finding ways to fight off this dreaded coronavirus disease and still find ways to make ends meet. I know all of us musicians out there are suffering. So, take this as like a big epic shout out to, stick together and band together and, we will get through this. And, with the vaccine right around the corner, the only way we could go from here is up. I feel like we're already through the thick of it. So, take this time, this holiday season, since you can't get out as much and, go to restaurants and go to shows, not only take that time and spend with your family as best as you can safely. Also, If you can, yeah. I'm actually questioning whether I'm gonna be coming up for Christmas because a lot of our folks got COVID, so I'm kind of thinking I should probably stay in Exton, but that's a whole different topic. But to take a lot of this downtime and kind of reflect on the experience of what it is to go to a live show, and hopefully you can take those memories and those future aspirations of going to those shows with a greater degree of appreciation for all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, all the guys out there like AJ that do all the legwork to make a show like that possible, so that when you go to see your favorite band, it's so much more than just seeing them stand on a stage and play. It's seeing these incredible light displays, these incredible video displays, these incredible stage effects, and like just really taking every time I go to a live show, I always think like, God, how many people does it take to put something like this together, to like build those stages and then tear them down and take them on the road and move that stuff across the country? Like, I could never do that. I could never do that. So so hopefully all you folks out there have a much stronger appreciation for guys like him out there, and if that happens for maybe some of you, I'm happy. That means we did our job, and I accomplished my goal of bringing AJ onto this for tonight.
I'll just add National Independent Venue Association, which is NIVASSOC.org, and SaveOurStages.com. Go to those websites, check it out. And when this is all over, please, anyone who loves live music, go out and support these smaller venues, these local places, live music. And if you ever thought about, getting some lessons on an instrument, call Danton if you're in the area.
Yeah,
I don't teach anymore, but
I'm teaching online now. I'm doing everything remotely, and I'm at the point now where I'm even just branching out and trying to market to people in different areas. Like, hey, we're online, so it doesn't matter. Even if we're not in the same time zone, we could figure it out.
Right. So if you need a lesson, call Danton. If you want to learn something, call somebody. Support your musicians who have been hurting for the past year. They, just like everyone else in the service industry, your waitresses, your waiters, your bartenders, the bar owners, eat out more, support the restaurants, and go see live music. That's all I got.
Yeah. Perfect.
And Merry Christmas if we don't see you.
And Happy New Year. Yeah, we're probably not going to film the next one until 2021.
Probably not.